On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the club continues to get the band back together and bring in another familiar face on a PTO, but can he make the team, make an impact? Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram at Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, today, sir, we're getting to some no, I shouldn't say possible. It's always a discussion around this time of year, regular season right around the corner. Any changes that could be made to the regular season. They talked about this in The Athletic. So we'll go through that. And then there's some predictions in the Hockey Writers that they threw out. And nothing really earth-shattering, but there's one of them in there. There's a specific reason why I'm bringing it up. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But where we are going to start is exactly like I said in the intro, and the Avalanche bringing back P.E. Bellemare from yesteryear. And one of the favorites, like one of those guys that is, he's a depth player and he knows his role. And he had fantastic sound bites when he was with the Avs, and he just does that bouncing around thing in the pregame. That just a lovable guy. And they bring him back on a PTO, so he's got to prove that he can earn a spot. And he is 39 years old. So in one breath, it's like, yeah, it's cool to have him back because you love him. But what can he do at this age, playing on this team, which is built around speed, which he doesn't really have. He never really had it, but what you're getting out of him. He knows his role. Good penalty killer guy. He'd be a fine fourth line center. But again, like the 39-year-old thing is the hang up for me. So what was your thoughts on it?
Initially, seeing that name scroll back across my screen as tied to the Colorado Avalanche brought back like a flood of just memories and the sound bites and like, oh, good, Belly's back. And then you're like, wait a minute. If you look at your watch, it's 2024. He's 39 years old. This team is, the Avalanche have had a problem with injuries since the beginning of time and cap constraints. And you're like, why? I don't know if this is to add extra episodes of the Bellemare dinner table show that they have going on. Right. But I just, it's great. It's wonderful. It's not like he's a detriment to the team in any way. Like he's a locker room guy. Look back at every stop he's ever had in his career. Everybody, fans and players, they miss him because he's such a big locker room, like a battery. But what does he offer the Avalanche at 39 years old that we're already talking about what the third and fourth line of this team's going to look like? What does Bellemare add to this mix?
I don't know. Like I do know, like what you got out of him, what he's given every team in his entirety of his career. You're just getting his good size and a fourth line guy and a penalty killer. Like that's what you're getting. You're not getting points. You know what I mean? Like he is not out there to score you a boatload of points. He is the quintessential fourth line player. But can he be that at 39 years old? Like those guys, I mean, maybe they don't have as much wear and tear on them because they're not out there for 15, 16 years playing north of 20 minutes a game. So maybe he'll in that aspect, he doesn't have as much damage on his body as other guys. But it doesn't matter. Like you're still playing the sport for as long as you've played it, and you're 39 years old. It's a big ask. So you said he's not really a detriment to the team, It's weird because it's almost in reverse. Like, yeah, in the locker room, I'd bring him in just for that. The detriment, and I shouldn't say the detriment, but the questions clearly are going to be on the ice. Can a 39-year-old body, doesn't matter. I mean, if he's a career fourth line guy, can a 39-year-old guy play in this league for a full 82 games? It's tough for anybody to do that. And asking him to do it might be a big challenge, but they clearly, they love the guy. That they love him. I don't know, man. Well, this is why you do this stuff. This is why you bring guys in on a PTO, see what you got. Show up in the preseason and training camp. Let's see what you have and earn it. And then if he earns it good, and if he doesn't, you can let him go and no worse for wear.
But Chris, what about the altitude? No, like when it comes to like Belly, we're not making the case for a 39-year-old like Sidney Crosby type or a 39-year-old Alex Ovechkin. This isn't trying to squeeze a 30-40 point season out of somebody you're trying to get the last remaining. No, like his stint in Tampa Bay, it was a shell of what everybody knew Bellemare to be. Like it's been kind of like fading away, other than a locker room presence, which you could come on as an advisor or a special assistant or like I don't. And also with this team, and we've talked about this many times in this offseason, isn't there an eagle with an ELC that you need to try out and see and kind of get an idea when it comes to fourth line, third line? Like, is this really the route the Avs should be going? Like, I mean, they just signed guys like Calvin DeHaan, and like we've already gone down this aged route, and you have a surplus of 1 year, 1.2 players. Where do they all go? And why are we doing like the PTO? Other than, yes, it's great fanfare and good to relive the memories, but why? I just don't see where it fits.
I think you do this with PTOs. You're gonna sign them. You're gonna sign. No. When I say you're gonna sign them, I mean PTOs. You're gonna bring in PTOs, not necessarily sign them for the team, but you're gonna bring them in just to see what they have and see. And the Avs clearly have been going off of familiar faces in this off season. So I mean, he's another one. It doesn't surprise me that they brought in a PTO. It doesn't surprise me that it's someone that they knew and know. So. But the funny thing is, it's like, okay, now the battle for this 4C is your number one prospect who's 19, 20 years old, or the 39-year-old. Those seem like those are the two guys that now are kind of front and center to take over the fourth line center, at least for this season. So which direction do you want to go? And it's like, okay, take the inexperience or take the experience. You can make an argument for either one. This will be an interesting thing. It has made training camp a little bit more interesting. I will say that.
But and when it comes to the inexperience, like you don't want Belly coming in here and teaching how to be a fourth line center. You don't want to use that experience in that.
Why not though?
You don't want him to stay in the fourth line.
Who? Bellemare?
Well, I don't.
Where do you want him to go? I mean, he's not going up. I think he'd be perfect. I think maybe, you know what? And as you're saying that, maybe that's another reason why they brought him in to kind of be a guy, the elder statesman to show the young buck the ropes. You know what I mean? That's not the worst idea ever. Not that it's solely going to be on him to do that. They have a lot of veterans on the team that will take him under their wing. But in terms of playing that role. But the other part of it is like, that's not where Callum Ritchie is going to be expected to play the entirety of his career.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. When it comes to like, why burn a PTO on Bell? Now, let me preface this. I love Bellemare. I think he's incredible. Locker room presence, just on the bench. He fires the guys up. They love playing with him. But you don't want to teach Callum Ritchie how to be a fourth line center. You want to teach him like. You have Cogliano for this type of role already on staff for development.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. Like it's not just going to be solely on him to get this guy acclimated to the game, but for this season, and maybe just that's where you're expecting Richie to start if he makes the team and is handed that position. Okay, who are guys that have been there before? And if Richie does get that position, I don't know what they do with Bellemare. Like, do they release him from the PTO then? Because like this is his. That's the only position he is going to fill. It's not like you keep him on the PTO and for other roles on the team. I can't see that happening. So if Richie grabs the position, is Bellemare gone? And then does he say, well, I'll just retire? And then, like you're saying, I'll take a front office job with you guys, because that's just what seems to be happening with ex-Avalanche players. And just get him involved in the game for this season, or for to start his career. Hey, that's the position that I played for a long time. I can help you out wherever I can, in addition to all the other people that are helping this kid out because he's a rookie.
But isn't this also Kiviranta's role?
The fourth line?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, someone's got to earn it. You know what I mean? I'm not just putting Richie in there in ink, but I'm saying, like, if he's the one that gets it, and then you have like the league that he's playing in. Like, so if he makes the team, he makes the team, because he can't go back.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, man. I like it. You're gonna bring in PTOs anyway. You do it every off season. And this is an interesting one, because it really kind of, now there's a battle for the fourth line center.
What's Abbe Kubel doing?
No, we don't need that. I liked him. I'm not going. I mean, but the other, we had talked about Yamamoto many times. He was brought in on a PTO. Crazy.
That's a whole topic for another day.
Who brought him in? I can't remember who it was. I was like the Kings, or I don't know. I'll have to look it up, but
it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he's a little bit, not a little bit. He is undersized, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. So we'll see where this goes. And training camp is right around the corner. And of course, that regular season. Let's talk about that. Is there changes that need to be made for the NHL regular season? We're going to talk about that right after this. All right, eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and to level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. So whether you're into speed, power, style, we call that what, Mr. Sullivan?
The Nathan McKinnon trilogy.
That's right. eBay Motors has you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, so I always like talking about this stuff because every offseason there's rule changes and changes to this or that, whatever sport is. You had Major League Baseball kind of, and even NBA kind of take the lead on changes to the regular season and how specifically the games are played. And we won't get into too much of what they do, but it might come up in this conversation.
One was a winner, one was not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but that's whatever. The NHL hasn't really done a ton to their regular season in a while. And The Athletic had a article up asking, how do you fix the NHL? And what they called a boring regular season is the headline. So that's an attention grabber right there. So they get into like three things that could potentially fix this boring season, which right off the bat, I had an issue with the title.
I do too.
Because, and I know, that, like I said, that is an intent. People are going to click on that just based on the title. But I number one, like I don't feel like the regular season for hockey is boring, but I'm an NHL fan.
Yeah.
I am a hockey fan. I have no problem saying that I am a fair weather baseball fan. Like if the teams I root for are not doing well, I don't tune in because that season is a grind and a haul. We're here talking about 82 games. Try 162 when your team is terrible. That's rough. So but I understand what he's saying because the way that I am with baseball, there's people like that for hockey.
Well, I'm the same way with the NBA. Like they have the same 82 game season, and I don't watch New York Knicks basketball until Christmas because I just can't. Like it doesn't excite me. It's a boring regular season, but I
Yeah.
catch myself saying, "Oh my goodness, we only have 41 more regular season games." Like I count them down. I'm like, "Oh man, we only have 30 games left in the regular season." I have never seen a boring regular season. There's always something for me to watch and track and keep me excited. So I've never had an issue, but
Mhm.
the things they bring up are quite interesting.
I can't. Yeah, and I'll bring them up in a second. Like you mentioned the NBA, like I cannot watch the NBA.
No.
And to me, that is just so boring and nonstop complaining, nonstop. And when you just have guys that are just built like Hulks complaining when they get touched on the finger, I tune out. That's why I can't watch soccer either. But you know, so let me see. So yeah, I'm sure I'm sure it's a dagger in our heart to many people, but I just don't care. The sport's so boring. Let's see. So the first thing that they bring up here is they say scrap the division heavy playoff format and go back to the 1 versus 8. And I am for this. And the way
Yes.
that it's designed right now is, and Denker always talked about this, being in the division that they were in, they knew their position by Thanksgiving.
Yep.
They knew they were going to be 2 or 3, and that's who you're going to play. There's no fighting for seeds anymore, and the 1 through 8 would help with that. And the other thing that he brings in is the like a play-in, not even just a play-in game. And at first, I hated this idea because I didn't like it because I just felt like you have 82 games to get in position. Right. And then what happens? Like the team that finishes below you, you give them an extra chance. And if they beat you, then they have a full playoff series that they're playing. And that still holds true for me. I still don't like it 100%. But from a viewer standpoint, from a fan standpoint, it would make it would put more eyes on games. And the 1 versus 8 would force teams to treat these games in April more meaningful than they do. For one, for seeding, to have a better seed, and for 2, to get themselves out of that playing game, to not play in that playing game and have everything you worked for after 82 games be gone after 1. So I'm not completely against the playing game anymore.
I do not like the play-in game.
Mhm.
I don't watch it in baseball, and I will not like. I don't see it being needed in playoff hockey. But talk to me about 1 through 8. That will make things very interesting because guess what? I'm sick of seeing St. Louis and Dallas every playoff. Tired of
Yeah.
seeing LA Kings and Edmonton every playoff. Like if you mix it up and really make it where you win number 1, you probably have an easier opponent to get through the round, and you really don't want to be number 8. You're really fighting to work your way up, have a better chance because it improves your odds to make it through the playoff. And if you do get that number 8, then it's an additional, you hype yourself up because we can take out the number 1 and really send the playoffs into just a crazy fever pitch.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of exciting storylines you could do with a 1 through 8 because I'm tired of the same matchups every year. And you want to talk about checking out and not caring? The first round of the playoffs are starting to get that way with the same matchup every single year.
I think the playoffs still hold, obviously tremendous value, but it would be nice just to see different, like you're saying, like different matchups here and there. And I think that is starting to wear thin on like, okay, like now we're getting just divisional matchups for the playoffs, where it would just be a little bit better just to see some change in there, between divisions. And obviously you have East and West Conference, obviously, but like with a mix mash of the divisions with it for the first round would be a little bit better outside of just those wild card teams.
Yeah.
They're the ones that really move around. So yeah, I think they should go back to that. I think that is a key thing. The second thing they bring in here, he says shorten the regular season. And he says in the first line, like, I don't really feel like this is ever going to happen. And I don't either. And I don't understand why people want to short, like, why? What, like, you want to shorten the regular season to satisfy who? To satisfy the people, the fans of the teams and the teams themselves of the teams that are not good. So you put them out of their misery earlier. And he says maybe shorten it to a 70 or even 75 games. So say he goes 75. So what, you're putting them out of their misery 7 games earlier? And this goes back to what I was saying about being like a fair weather fan. Like all you're doing is just ending it, a couple weeks early. He does throw out the thing about back-to-backs, and if you lower the amount of games, you do get rid of the back-to-backs. Totally agree with that. Would love to end that practice, but I don't like just backing up games, because that's where my mind goes, is the fan bases of can just end their season quicker and be put out of misery. Where the teams that are doing well, you want to watch those teams. And for being an Avalanche fan right now, we're in that position of, hey, play 92 games for regular season because it's fun watching this team. And I can say that having watched every single game of the dumpster fire season too.
Yep.
So that's my thing. Like with hockey, I will watch every single game, every Avalanche game. Doesn't matter if they're bad or good. So you can't just go by me though, because I will watch everything. You have to bring in the people who are not huge hockey fans and will only tune in when their team is doing well. Still, I don't lower the amount of games though. I don't like that idea at all.
Let me go ahead and ruin this for you, Mr. Christmaselli. This came up in my college research this week.
Mm-hmm.
The NHL makes 44% of their league revenues of what? Ticket sales.
Yep.
So guess what happens if you go down to 72 games?
Mm-hmm.
You are losing your money. And guess what Gary Bettman does not want to do? Lose his money. They are number one out of the big 5 in professional sports when it comes to relying on the gate. So you will have 82 games as long as the current organization of power in the NHL exists. So there's no fear there, my friend.
No. Well, the way he does combat that a little bit is to say, what does he say? He goes, if you're adding playing games, international tournaments, more expansion teams, and potentially an in-season tournament, which we even talk about, there are some additional sources of revenue. So he's saying, like, yeah, you can remove some regular season games, but you have to replace that with something, whether it's an in-season tournament, at the end, which is, I hate that idea.
The dumbest thing.
The playing game at the end. They are doing the Four Nation stuff. I don't know how they're going to make money off of that. I'm sure they're going to do it somehow, because they're not just going to let their guys go away for nothing. But he's right there. Like you're right. You cannot just take away 5 or even 12 games, because that is money, and that is not what the league wants to do. So I don't like, the only thing I want to get rid of with the regular season is back-to-backs.
Yep.
Get rid of back-to-backs. Yeah. And that's why, like, I kept going back to the playing thing. Like, it would make the end of the season fun. It really would. So I'm not 100% against it, because right now teams know where their standing is, and those games in April are kind of a little bit sluggish.
My solution to the back-to-backs: cut preseason down to 1 week. 3 games of preseason, cut it off, and then you have more time to be flexible with your schedule. Spread it out a little bit. Go like 1st of October, if end of September, and get rid of the back-to-backs.
Yeah. And the last thing, which we're not going to really talk about too much, is just continue to reward skill and scoring. Basically, just say, like, the more you get scoring in the sport, the more people are going to tune in. And the league is doing well there.
Yeah.
So scoring is going up. So interesting topic. I don't think anything changed, but the league hasn't done a lot in changing things a long time. So do they need a shot of adrenaline somewhere for people to tune in, or is it just no? Like the sport's exciting as it is. Fine. We have like 2-3 weeks in April where maybe the games don't hold as much weight, and we can deal with that because the playoffs follow that right up, which are the best playoffs in sports. So it's a little bit of give and take.
I think it's probably the best it's been in at least 20 years right now. So don't mess with it.
Yeah. Just go back to 1-8. Go back 1-8. We'll be good.
And the glow puck.
Oh no. No. We're gonna take a break right now and forget Kyle ever said that. We'll be back. All right, let's hear from Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. So don't search, match with Indeed, because if you need to hire, then you need Indeed, and it's your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So all listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. So go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support Locked On Avalanche by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. And if you need to hire, then you need Indeed. All right, last thing I wanted to get to quickly was over at the Hockey Writers. They had a article that just said 3 bold predictions for the Avalanche for this season. I don't know if I don't really think any of them are really bold.
The first 2 are not. The third,
Okay, and that's honestly why I'm bringing this up is for the third one. So quickly, the first one, Middlestat gets career highs in goals, assists, and points, and that's something that we've talked about. And I think just playing on this team, that's gonna fix itself for career highs for him. Yeah. Number 2 is Cale Makar scores 100 points. Okay, another thing that we've talked about in this offseason. Sure, he if anybody can do that. Not like defensemen can't score 100 points. We see it, every once in a while. Sure. Cale Makar is absolutely someone that can get to the century mark as a defenseman. The third one, both Gabe Landeskog and Val Nichushkin return this season. Another thing that we have talked about many times in this offseason. But the main reason I bring this up, I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on it because of probably the Nichushkin thing. But I brought it up because Gabe Landeskog is looking good in practice.
Yeah, he does.
Brennan is putting up, if you follow Brennan Vogt over on X, he's going to all the practices and he throws up content like crazy. He's putting up a lot of video of guys, a lot of Lehkonen, but a lot of Gabe Landeskog. And Landeskog is moving around the ice like a floating angel right now. And I am getting a little bit excited. We heard him on the golf course when he said it's not a matter of if, but when at this point. And when he said that, he was still skating a little bit gingerly. But I want to say, amped it up in the past couple of days. And don't get the impression of he's, skating around with blinding speed. But he's skating backwards. He's making turns. He's looking I almost dare to say ahead of the game right now. It's getting me a little bit excited that Gabe Landeskog sooner rather than later should be back on the ice.
I think Brennan's doing this intentionally because of what I said when we had him on. And I think he's purposely, it's like when you're hyped for a movie and you don't want any spoilers. I feel like he's putting this out, trying to get me excited and trying to get me to dip into spoilers. I'm trying my best to keep a level head and be professional about this. But my goodness, it's so good to see him whipping around on the ice like he is. I'm like, oh, this could be a chance. And then, of course, in this article, they bring up Nichushkin. I'm like, just be quiet. Sit down. Let's look at Landeskog, please. But I could see, and the more this goes on, I could see Landeskog being a thing. Return, of course. Sure. And the progress he's making, of course. How long? Another topic, another day. Nichushkin, whole different thing, because guess what? With all this Landeskog stuff we keep seeing, it is just as loud in silence on Nichushkin.
Yeah, you haven't really heard much what's going on with him, which I didn't really expect. So I think we're just going to get more of that closer to when he could potentially return. So obviously, it remains to be seen, man. And then how they're going to navigate this with the cap is obviously always in the back of my mind.
Why bring on Bellemare?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I Gabe Landeskog, and it's what we've always said is I feel like he will. This was for the last 2 years. I've said I feel like he will come back and give it a go. I still feel it. I'm not going to say like, oh, he's the way he looks, the way he's skating right now, he's going to play for the entirety of the season. I'm not going to say that. What I've said for the last 2 years is I feel like he will come back and at least attempt to play. And that's where we're at right now. And we'll see what happens when he gets out there. When he hits someone, when someone hits him, there's still, even though he will return, there's still a long road to go, even when he's on the ice playing for minutes for the Avalanche. But God, those videos that Brent's putting up, I'm doing standing ovations in my living room just watching them. So
I'm still of the camp of wake me up when that first shift happens, because I've seen football players tear the ACL at a coin toss. So get me to this moment and I will be excited. But until then, I can't get my hopes up again.
Come on, man. Come on. Well, you don't want to get him up just to be shot down again. Yeah. I understand that. I get that. So, all right. That will wrap it up for today, everybody, and for this week. So thank you for tuning in every day and making this your first listen of the day. That is always, always appreciated. So we'll be back on Monday with a fresh episode. Maybe that Mikko contract that's lingering out there gets signed. Who the heck knows? But of course, we'll be talking about that when that ever happens. So, all right, everyone, enjoy the weekend, and thank you for tuning in. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you next week.